My name is Alice Foster. I'm 47 years old. I'm currently in the King County Detention Center in Washington. I've been charged with 3 counts, the least serious of which is kidnapping. My lawyer says if I cooperate, I'll get 25 years instead of life. He doesn't understand that I don't want to cooperate. I want someone to know the truth. Not the truth the newspapers write. Not the version the prosecutors have concocted. I want to tell the truth. How an ordinary woman who simply wanted to help children became who they call me now. I was a nanny for 23 years. During that time, dozens of children passed through my hands. I changed their diapers, spoon-fed them, put them to bed, treated their wounds, and listened to their secrets. Their parents trusted me with their most precious possessions, and I never gave them a reason to doubt them. Until last year. I want to tell you about the Williams family, about little Emma, and also about what happens to a person when loneliness becomes unbearable. I started working as a nanny at 24. Back then it was just a job. I was single, I didn't have children of my own, and my teaching background and love for children were the perfect combination. First families, first children, first attachments. I always told myself I wouldn't get too attached. It's a job, you have to keep your distance. But with children, it's impossible to keep your distance. They worm their way into your heart without asking, and there's nothing you can do about it. I remember every child I've cared for. Their names, their habits, their favorite toys. I remember the smell of their hair after bathing and how they reached out to me when they woke up. I gave them all my warmth. And then they grew up and left. To school, to a new life, to new people. And I was left alone. Families changed. Children grew up. And I was left. By the age of 50, I realized I had nothing. No family, no home, no future. Only other people's children whom I love more than life itself, and other people's parents who reciprocate that love. I'm not complaining. I chose this life myself. But sometimes at night in my small apartment, I'd stare at the ceiling and think, what if I had my own daughter? What if I could truly love someone regardless of a contract or work hours? These thoughts came and went. I pushed them away. Work is work. Until the Williams family came along. I approached them 2 years ago. Michael and Rachel Williams were a typical well-off couple from the Seattle suburbs. He was an architect, she a lawyer. They had a beautiful house in a gated community, 2 cars, a perfectly manicured lawn. And their daughter Emma, who was 4 years old at the time. Rachel was looking for a full-time nanny. She was returning from maternity leave and planning to go back to work. Emma would stay with me from morning until night 5 days a week. I went to the interview, and when I saw this little girl, something inside me changed. Emma looked like an angel. Blonde curls, huge blue eyes, a shy smile. She hid behind my mother's leg and looked at me curiously. I crouched down and said, "Hi, I'm Alice. I'll play with you while mommy's at work. Would you like me to show you a magic trick?" I pulled a coin out of my pocket and pretended to swallow it. Emma gasped, and then I pulled the coin from behind her ear. She laughed. And in that moment, I knew I was in trouble. I got the job. The first few months were perfect. I'd come home at 7 in the morning, make breakfast, wake Emma up. We'd play, read books, walk in the park. I'd bathe her, put her to bed, and wait for my parents to come home from work. Sometimes they stayed late, and so did I. It didn't bother me. I didn't want to leave. Emma had gotten used to me. She'd call me Eli, hold out her little arms when I arrived, and cry when I left. Rachel would say, "She adores you." I'd smile and tell her the feeling was mutual. But something strange was growing inside me. I found myself feeling jealous. When Emma said, "Mom," I wanted that word to apply to me too. When she cried at night, I wanted to be the one to comfort her. When my parents went on vacation and left Emma with Grandma, I called every day to check on her. Rachel was amazed by such devotion. She didn't understand. I was no longer a nanny. I was becoming someone else. Someone who had no right to exist. Everything changed a year later. Rachel started having problems at work. She started staying late, sometimes arriving after midnight. Michael was also busy. They practically stopped seeing their daughter. Emma lived with me. I took her to and from daycare, cooked her meals, bathed her, and put her to bed. I became her mother in every sense of the word except the legal one. And I loved it. I remember the evening when everything went wrong. Emma was 5.5. She was sick with a fever of almost 104 degrees. Rachel was in an important meeting. Michael was on a business trip. I called them and Rachel said, "Call the doctor, I'll be there as soon as I can." She arrived at 1 in the morning when Emma had already fallen asleep after I changed her diapers and drank raspberry tea. I sat by Emma's bed holding her hand and watched her sleep. So small, so defenseless, so trusting. And suddenly it dawned on me. A wild, uncontrollable wave. I realized I couldn't give this up. Never. Rachel walked into the room and caught me doing this. I was sitting there, stroking Emma's head, her cheek, her hand. Rachel smiled and said, "You're so attentive, Alice." "Thank you." I nodded and went home. But that night I didn't sleep. I thought about how to get Emma back. How to make her mine. Do you think this is crazy? Yes, it was. But madness doesn't come suddenly. It creeps up slowly, convincing you that you're normal. That your feelings have a right to happiness. I convinced myself that Emma would be better off with me. That Rachel was too busy with her career to be a good mother. That Michael hadn't been involved in her upbringing at all. That I loved Emma more than they did. That she loved me more. It was a lie, but I believed in it. I started preparing 6 months in advance. First, the little things. I asked Rachel for copies of Emma's documents, for insurance, for doctor's appointments. She gave them to me without a second thought. I made photocopies of her birth certificate, medical records, even her passport, even though Emma was only 5. Then I started saving. I put part of each paycheck aside in a separate account. By spring I had about $20,000. That would be enough to rent an apartment in another state for 6 months. I studied my parents' schedules. Michael traveled for business every 2 weeks. Rachel worked late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday evenings were ideal. They wouldn't miss it until Friday morning. I bought a used car in an untraceable name. I rented an apartment in Idaho far from the city and put down a cash deposit. I bought everything I needed: clothes, toys, books. My future Emma's room was ready. I waited for the right moment. It arrived in October. That Thursday was ordinary. I arrived at 7, woke Emma up and fed her breakfast. Rachel had already left for work, kissing her daughter on the forehead and calling, "Bye, darling, I'll be back this evening." Michael had been away on business since Monday. I took Emma to preschool as usual. But at 3 o'clock I picked her up early. I told the teacher we had a doctor's appointment. Emma was thrilled. She liked it when I picked her up early. We weren't going to the doctor. We were going to my house. I packed the things I'd prepared in advance. I told Emma we were going on a short trip, that it was a surprise for Mom. She believed me. She was 5 years old and she trusted me with everything. We got in the car and drove off. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting someone to follow us. But no one did. No one knew we were leaving. No one would miss her until evening. Emma fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the drive. I looked at her and felt my heart swell with happiness. He's mine. She's mine now. We arrived in Idaho late at night. The apartment was small but cozy. I tucked Emma into bed, kissed her forehead, and sat next to her. I watched her sleep and cried with happiness. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. I was only thinking about finally having a daughter. The first weeks were wonderful. We lived quietly. I didn't let Emma outside, telling her we wouldn't go for walks for now, so no one would find out about our secret place. She missed kindergarten and her friends, but I made up games, read to her, and drew. I was the perfect mother. Emma called me Eli. I didn't insist on Mom. It just happened naturally. But after a month, she started asking about her mother. Her real mother. "When are we going home?" she asked one morning. "Soon, darling. Just a little while longer. I want to see Mom. And Dad." "I'm with you," I said. "Are you okay?" "Everything's fine. But I want to see Mom." I smiled and told her she'd see Mom soon. But something inside me broke. Jealousy. Wild, black jealousy. I'd given her everything and she still wanted the woman who saw her once a day in the evenings. It wasn't fair. I started getting angry. At first, it just irritated me when she asked about the house. Then I started punishing her, not hitting her, no. I simply went into another room and didn't speak to her until she apologized. Emma cried, begged for forgiveness, even though she didn't understand what she'd done wrong. I came back, hugged her, and everything was fine. For a while. 3 months passed. The police still hadn't found us. I read the news, they were searching but to no avail. I calmed down. Thought we were safe. But Emma wouldn't calm down. She asked about her mother every day. Sometimes several times. I answered patiently but inside rage boiled. One day she said, "You're not my mother. My mother is Rachel. You're just a nanny." I looked at her and felt my world crumble. "I'm your mother now," I said. "I care for you, I love you, I'm here with you. Where's your mother? She abandoned you." "That's not true. She's looking for me." "She's not looking. If she were, she would have found me by now. She's forgotten you." Emma burst into tears. I hugged her and consoled her. But from that day on, I began telling her this all the time. That Rachel didn't love her. That Rachel was glad she was gone. That only I, Alice, truly loved her. I brainwashed her. Methodically, day after day. The way cultists do, the way abusers do. I didn't see it as evil. I saw it as salvation. I was saving her from her indifferent mother. By spring, Emma stopped asking about home. She started calling me Mom. She no longer cried at night. He was mine. Completely. I thought I'd won. But something inside Emma broke. She became quiet. Too quiet. She used to laugh, run, and play. Now she could sit for hours, staring into space. I'd ask what was wrong. She'd answer, "Nothing, Mom," and smile. A strange, empty smile. I didn't notice, or didn't want to notice. One night I woke up cold. Emma was standing by my bed looking at me. The moonlight fell on her face, making it white as chalk. "What's wrong, darling?" I asked. "Do you love me?" she asked. "Of course I do. You know that. And if I do something bad, will you still love me?" "Always." She nodded and went to her room. I didn't pay attention. I should have. A week later, I found her with scissors. She was sitting in the bathtub, cutting her arm. It wasn't deep, just scratches. But the blood was pouring out like a river. I screamed, grabbed the scissors, and bandaged the wound. Asked why. She answered, "I wanted to see what the blood inside me was like. What if it's different from yours? What if I'm not your daughter?" I hugged her and cried. For the first time, I realized what I'd done. I'd broken my child, the one I loved more than life itself. But it was too late. The police found us 2 weeks later. One of the neighbors noticed a strange girl sitting in the yard, unblinking, staring at the sky. They called social services. They checked and found discrepancies. When they broke into the apartment, Emma was sitting on the floor, drawing. She looked up and said, "Hello. Are you coming for me?" They grabbed me and handcuffed me. They took Emma away. I screamed that she was my daughter, that they had no right to her. But I had no documents. I had nothing. At the station, I learned that Rachel and Michael never recovered from the loss. They divorced a year after Emma disappeared. Rachel was treated for depression at a clinic. Michael remarried and went to Europe. Emma was returned to her mother. I don't know what happened to them. They won't tell me.
Now I'm here in a cell, awaiting trial. They tell me I'm a monster, that I kidnapped a child, broke her psyche, deprived her of her parents. I don't argue. I did it. But when I look at my hands, I don't see the hands of a monster. I see the hands of a woman who simply wanted to love, who couldn't accept that no one wanted her love. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to understand, monsters aren't born. They become. Slowly, step by step, from loneliness to despair, from despair to madness. I don't know what happened to Emma. I have dreams where she comes to me, grown up, beautiful, and says, "I forgive you, Mom." I wake up and cry. She doesn't come. And she shouldn't. I want to say one thing. If you see a nanny who loves your child too much, who stays late without warning, who knows more about your child than you do, don't rejoice. Take a closer look. Because behind that love there may be a void. A void that needs to be filled at any cost. I don't know how long they'll give me. Life? 25 years. What difference does it make? I'm already serving my time. Every night I see her face. Every night I hear her voice. Do you love me, Mom? I love you. I will always love you. But that's enough.